Somebody was saying it's $50 a month now.
Oh my gosh, StreamYards, you people, terrible. We're terrible. StreamYards, sort out your pricing, people. All right, we're live. We're live, baby. We're with my good friend Nick from Back Yard Tardis again. Red 5, baby.
Hello, everyone. Yep.
Red 5
Red 5
family.
Network.
Yeah, baby. Woohoo! I gotta love a bit. You know what? I've been with Red 5 now. Probably really since the start of my YouTube journey, really. And my only regret with Red 5 is I've wanted to stream a little bit more with Red 5, podcasters. And I haven't, and there's always been like big gaps in between it. So I'm trying to get more continuity. And it's not so much just about the numbers or, how much following other streamer has. It's more, my focus now is having quality conversations. I don't really care so much about the numbers. It's more about building community, have quality conversations, and just take it from there. And if it builds up Christian fandom, great. But I want to be able to look back on the channel and say, well, actually, the numbers are what they are, but the quality actually is good. The conversations are good. People that are watching it will get something from the sort of the streams and conversations, and it can challenge their worldviews in a really positive way. And it's a great thing about Red 5 as well. As podcasters, and Nick, you'll know, but I'm supporting Red 5, and you've got your own channel and podcast as well, is that we can critique things, especially things like Star Wars and some of the themes that are coming up that we don't like, but it's never toxic. It's never like, okay, we hate sections of communities because we don't like Star Wars or we don't like what they do with things. Yeah. We can actually give an argument and say, we don't like this, we don't like that, but actually we still love you. And we respect that your views might be different to us, but it doesn't mean that we're going to accept Kathleen Kennedy feeding us nonsense in Star Wars. It's like, man, give us Luke Skywalker and give me Luke strong in the Force. Don't give me no weird hermit drinking milk. Don't give me that green milk. Sod off with that. Did you know what I mean? Don't give me that. Anyway, big love, Nick. Tell us what you've been up to. What have you been up to, my friend?
I want to say, because I've recently joined the Red 5 Network, but I was there from day one. I was watching a number of the people who were in the Red 5 Network. I was watching Ro with the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast, and then he would collab with some of the different individuals that were the founding members. And so every time he'd collab with one, then I'd subscribe to their podcast.
Yeah.
And so I was listening to pretty much everybody when it started. But for the longest time, I kept going, little self-deprecating, no, I'm not up to Red 5, and it just kind of, it's the respect that you get within the Red 5 Network that I really appreciate, and was why I was like, Ro, I got to commit to this. I got to do this because it's truly something. We can have very different opinions, be on stark opposites, but at the end of the day, we're friends. Whereas when you go online, so many people, it resorts to name calling. If you don't like this, you're a this. If you like this, you're a this. And we just don't do that. And that's what I appreciate.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like, it's just like, we're not childish, we're not immature. And it comes across as like, it does come across as childish and immature if it resorts to name calling, and if it results to, okay, this whole group of people are this because of Star Wars. It's like, no. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I like, I'm not soft online. Like, I wouldn't consider myself to be soft, as in I'm not like, oh gosh, I'm afraid to say my opinion on something. I'll say my opinion on something. But my intent is not to offend people. Now, if someone gets offended, that's like, that might be their issue. But I will never ever deliberately offend people. I'm not that guy. You know what I mean, Nick? You look online, you're on Twitter, on X, whatever they're calling it these days, and you see people, it's like, oh, that's that guy. Is the guy in the room, is the guy in the chat room, is the guy in a forum that likes to offend people, say edgy stuff just to wind people up, a bit of a troll. We're not like that. We ain't doing that. We've got our morals. We're coming from. We've got a good moral compass. And we recognize things like Star Wars for what they are. They're powerful, iconic stories and narratives and films and games and books that have shaped our generation that we've lived in, but we're not going to put that ahead of humanity and treating people right.
Right. Well, I mean, I know last time we spoke about it, you hadn't watched it yet. Have you watched Skeleton Crew?
Right. Okay. So so long story to Skeleton Crew. So my wife, I tried to get my wife into it. She wasn't having it. She was like, "Nah." She was just not in the mood for it. Like sometimes my wife is really good. Like sometimes she'll watch Star Wars with me. She's really good. She's a good
Mhm.
woman. And but like things like the Acolyte, I just watched myself. But I thought Skeleton Crew, I'll get the missus onto it because it's got a family vibe to it. I'm sure she'll like it.
Mhm.
She wouldn't get into it, so he kind of thought, "Oh, I'll try and get." I've tried a few times, and she wasn't having it. So okay. So then
Yeah.
I was like pleading. Then I was pleading with my little 3-year-old daughter. I'm like, "Please watch Star Wars with me," because it's supposed to be a family-orientated show. So I really want to watch it with my little daughter, and I've kind of harassed my little daughter, who's only 3, to kind of watch episodes with me, and she has done. So I'm up to episode. So today I watched 2 episodes today with my little 3-year-old daughter, and we've just done episode 6. So there's 2 more episodes to go,
Okay.
7 and 8.
Yeah.
I have to say, it's a good show. Like I
Mhm.
can't, I literally can't, like I can't fault it. For me, it's a good show. There's no weirdness there. It's not kind of, quote unquote woke in a kind of in that sort of way where it's kind of too much going towards one particular group of people. I think actually it's got that Goonies vibe. It's almost like Goonies versus Spielberg stuff, and it's very sort of late
Right.
80s sort of
The
vibe
the
to it.
first episode felt very ET to me in the vibe,
Yeah,
like the kids in
yeah,
the city on the bikes and stuff like that.
yeah. I
Um,
loved it.
I but I would say like overall, it captures the '80s kids movie. Like kids movies are different today.
Yeah,
They're super um, jokey, wacky, kids super. In the '80s, and this is kind of before the PG-13 rating was around.
yeah,
But it
yeah,
was
yeah,
always like it's made for kids. But then there would be scenes or there'd be stuff, and you go, "Wow, I can't believe that's in a kids movie." And that's how I feel like this is. Like
yeah, yeah,
it's not watered down like a lot of kids media is today.
yeah. I
And the
agree.
kids do feel like in peril. There does feel like there's moments when it goes a bit dark, you
Yeah,
know.
for real.
And that's something that I miss from my youth because that was how when you look back at like whether it's ET, that the never ending like there's always like there's dark moments in
Yeah, for real.
the TV from the 80s. And
Yeah, I totally agree.
so
Yeah,
it has that feel. But one of the things I like, because just like you were talking about, there's currently raging on Twitter is this battle over Acolyte fans saying that the reason why Skeleton Crew got positive is because the racists didn't like the Acolyte. And I look at that and I go, hold on, we've got a black boy, a white
yeah.
girl, an Asian girl, and a little blue elephant boy. How do you get more diverse than
I
that?
mean,
I
I
mean,
know, and the black. I forgot his name now, but the black lad, I really like him actually. I think he's great.
yeah,
Um,
win,
yeah. When is it? When is that right? Yeah,
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 hmm
yeah. He's really the sort of main protagonist of the show as well. So you've got like a
yeah,
mixed race lad, isn't it? You've got like a mixed race lad with dark curly hair, clearly a boy of color,
yeah,
who's essentially his friendship with Neil is probably the big arc of one of the major arcs of the show. Um, and like so it's nothing to do with race at all. It's literally like there's so much diversity in this show. The Oriental girl with the implants and the
KB,
visor, yeah, there's her as well. Like so, it's showing different. It's showing. I would say that that Skeleton Crew is showing diversity in the right way. I would say
yeah.
it's showing it in the right way. It's not weird. It's built into the story.
It's
Um,
also how the people behind the production approach fandom that brings that out.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
we talked about that last time I was on with like Riva and stuff like that. When they preemptively go out, and so Jill White who played the one cybernetic pirate.
Yeah.
He didn't come out with a rap video about how he's oppressed. Like what's her name in Acolyte did. So there's just in fact he's done is go on. He's on a book tour right now, talking about just how amazing this set was and this production was. He's saying nothing but positive things, building up the show, building up the kids, saying how he sees himself in those kids, and so it's positive stuff going out there, and then they get positive in return. When you put the negative out there, you stir people up. You get people up. When you call somebody a name, that causes a response.
I agree.
And
I totally agree.
So that's one of those things, is that sometimes, not to say that those people don't exist. They certainly do. And they are part of the voice in the fandom. But a lot of people get roped in with that just because they feel the same way about a product. And that's completely unrelated. Yeah,
I totally agree with you. It's crazy, man, how that happened. Give me 1 second, Nick. I'm trying to fix this audio. Sounds a bit off. Is that me, or is it actually? I'm not making it up, am I?
You're sounding good to me. Am I sounding echoey to you?
Not echoey. I wonder if it's because I'm doing the audio through this camera, and like I say, for everyone who's watching the stream, it's a new camera. It's actually really high, like supposed to be super HD, 4K actually, but it's brand new, and I'm trying to get it going for this stream for the first time. But I missed my old camera. I'm gonna literally go back and buy my old camera, even though this one actually, it's actually really high resolution. Like it looks good.
Yeah.
But the audio is coming through it, and it was a little bit crackly. So let me see how it's going now. But hopefully we can get some improvement on this. But when you're using like tech will always let you down. Basically, brand new tech will always let you down. Right. It sounds a little bit better at the moment and not so crappy.
Okay.
So we'll keep going. Okay. So Acolyte versus. Keep going, yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say, one of the things that I loved about Skeleton Crew is because it motivated Jewel White to do his book tour at the same time, and I'm huge Family Matters fan, and getting the stories that he's giving that on his tour, but also. For those that don't know, since we're talking about Sonic today, he voiced Sonic in the first 3 cartoons.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. He also voiced Sonic's sister and brother in one of them. That was not as great.
Oh, no.
Because, anytime they had like an extra character, like he does a lot of funny voices. Like they're like, oh, we need somebody to voice this character, and like he'll suddenly be one of the bad robots or something in the background.
Oh.
But
so which cartoon was that? Which one was it? Was like
so no. Before that, we're talking
the early one.
Yeah, so he was the first person to do, outside of I think in Sonic CD, Sonic would say I'm out of here if you left the thing alone. But he was the first person to voice Sonic. He did Sat AM, so Sonic Saturday morning cartoon. He did The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, which was kind of like Looney Tunes. With a scratch and grounder. And then he did the Sonic Underground, which came out at the end of the 90s, which was with his sister Sonia and brother Manic. And they all had magical instruments that could shoot lasers. They did all the drugs writing that show.
Oh, no. So it went really wacky.
Every episode, Jill White did a musical number where he played all 3 singers with different voices.
Wow,
It was bad.
It went wacky. It went wacky.
Yeah.
Goodness me. Well, give me 1 second, mate. I'm just gonna do something here. I need my laptop is losing power. So I'm gonna quickly go and get my charger. Keep talking though.
Yeah.
So hang on. Give me 1 second. So what I'm thinking of now is let's broach it to do with the Captain America stuff.
Yes.
Obviously, this came out of promoting the new film. Obviously, there's been a lot of problems with this film even before this point anyway. So even before Anthony Mackie said anything on this, sort of world tour, whatever he's doing, we know that they've had a lot of reshoots with this film. The budget's been quite big. they've obviously like when they're going to bring out a big film, they obviously get like a small group together to kind of go through the film and have the advanced sort of, okay, let's have a look and see if it's a decent film or not. What are they sort of what is a pre-critical sort of analysis of it before we actually release it? Like, will we need to do any reshoots, things like that? And it's come out loads of times that they've had to do loads of reshoots. It's almost like they're trying to save the movie.
One of the things that I think, this particular movie has going against it, and so many things going against it, is when they did the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show, that was during COVID. The original end plot line was all about vaccines, instilling vaccines, and the vaccines not being good, or being withheld from the poor. And then they decided that hits too close to home right now. Let's scrap that. Let's try to reshoot during COVID. And it made that a little janky. And then it kind of made that speech at the end, the do better speech. A lot of people had issue with that. But you know what? I didn't mind that. Like, I had a lot of people had issue with the fact that he couldn't get the bank loan. And yes, he's a celebrity superhero. He should be able to crowdfund it and all that. But if you could take into consideration the blip, that would have destroyed all the banking institutions, everything, the financial crisis that would come from that. And, I've been there at the bank. Like, the bank person could, I had a bank that when I took over my business, I'd worked for them with that bank for 30 years. And they said, oh, no, you're starting at ground one because you just restarted this business. And I couldn't get a loan, and it was like I had charts, I had spreadsheets, I had everything to show that I was a profitable business, and I said, sorry, we just can't. And so I connected to that. A lot of people were like, oh, they're trying to say that a black man can't get a loan. I looked at that and I go, that's not how I read that, but I got that a lot of people did. So they went into this movie where people already had a chip on the shoulder. I think whatever they originally did, they play tested, or had people come in and view, and it got a bad response, and they said, well, we got to do damage control. This movie should have came out last year, but they've also, it's coming off of the losses of a lot of Marvel products not hitting well, and so I think whereas before they wouldn't have been as concerned. Marvel is sweating for this to be a hit.
Oh gosh.
And and I don't know if it will be or not. I like Anthony Mackie. I really like the Falcon as that character. I don't have the issues as long as they're not trying to call him Steve Rogers. I don't have an issue with him being Captain America.
I think in the comic books, from what my understanding is, Bucky and the Falcon take up the mantle at different times.
Yes,
as Captain America. So it's not going against the law or canon of the comic books. It's not ad hoc. It's not like someone just started.
But,
well, let's just pick this random black guy, Falcon.
Right.
Let's make him Captain America. No, it's already in the stories already. So in that respect, not going against anything. Obviously, what you're saying, if they called him, Rogers kind of thing, if they said, okay, call him Steve Rogers, then obviously that would be completely breaking it, because you're then completely rewriting a different character, and you're
right,
and you're race bending the character, and there's not a good reason to do that.
Right.
It's like if you in DC, if you say, okay, we want a black Superman, that'd be really interesting. As long as that black Superman isn't Clark Kent, that's fine.
Right.
Because in DC you have a multiverse, and within the plethora of other worlds, they can have a world where there's a different person holding the mantle of being Superman, and that's absolutely fine, because it's not breaking canon or law, and it's not weird. It's when I think fans get upset when you take a character that's well established and you race bend that character, but it's like it's unneeded, because, like you say, you could just create, if you wanted to bring in a new character that's black, just bring in a new character that's black. It's not
Yeah.
really that. It's not really a big deal. And don't bang on about it. Just do it. You don't need to talk about it's the first this or it's this or that. Just go on with it. Put them in there and let the character be and write the character so well that it becomes like everyone loves that character. It's just like
right,
and that's what you do. That's what you do. So Mackie as the Captain America is absolutely fine, and it's in canon, and it's not just oh, it's fine, we can tolerate it. If he's well written as Captain America, we should be all over it. We should be like, oh man, that's amazing. And actually, when you see black characters well written, you do see that people are like proper into it. Like, yeah, oh wow, I love this character. You do tend to see that. I don't really get why.
I do think though that show wasn't well received, and so I think that was a rough rollout of that character.
Yeah.
And then they have let so many years go by from that show to now.
Yeah.
You know that came out in 2020.
Yeah.
And, so that's almost 5 years ago that show came out.
I can't believe it's that long. That's crazy. Yeah.
And so it's like everybody kind of had a negative taste, and the longer you get away from that, the more that group thought of that being bad has just kind of settled. I think if you went back and watched it, compared it to some of the other shows that have come out after, it's not that bad. But it's definitely not as bad as Secret Wars or whatever. What was that one that Samuel L. Jackson, like, that was bad.
Oh gosh,
I didn't make it.
I gave up on that. And this shows right that we're kind of quite the same in the sense of we want good shows. I think we're crying out, and maybe because part of it is maybe we're spoiled because if you think about it, we've had a lot of good. I know people will say, "Oh, the quality's gone," too much identity politics within media and whatnot. But if you think about it, we've had some big hit shows. If you think about the early Marvel stuff, or the instantiation of the MCU, and how that built up to Endgame, that was brilliant. Most of the films in that run were amazing, or very, very good. Even TV shows like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that didn't really get as much love as it should have got. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was it was brilliant. Great show.
Yeah.
Loved it. Absolutely loved Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. All over it. So we've, in some ways, been quite spoiled that we've had some great movies and great TV shows. The MCU has struggled a little bit, but we still got Man of Steel that was pretty decent. And there was some highlights there.
Look at how it was in the past, because we are spoiled. We're getting a lot of it, but we're also used to stuff either being quality or being really bad and then going away. You look at Batman. We got Batman Returns, Batman Forever gets a little rocky, Batman and Robin gets really goofy, and then that line of Batman films is done. Canceled those films, and then they reboot it. We look at Christopher Reeve's Superman. They had the first two films really good. The next two films, I love Nuclear Man. I find it funny, but it's not great. It's not, So
was he Swedish? He looked very Nordic.
I'm not sure, but it was that movie, and then they had the Cuban Missile Crisis movie that was really bad.
Oh yeah.
But it was, but that's what would happen is like when stuff would start, but with the power and the largeness of something like the MCU and Disney in particular, they have such a monopoly over the movie industry that they can release bad movies that get bad viewership, and they keep making them.
Yeah.
Because they, and so that's what's kind of different now is usually in the past, if something didn't get the views, even when it was good, if something didn't get the views, it got canned, and something new would start. And there's so many sci-fi shows from the 70s that would do high, but Battlestar Galactica, stuff, and they get canned for years, and then they reboot it and bring it back. But now there's this because the MCU started this interconnectivity, they don't want to let go of that.
No.
And I do feel like they keep having some subpar stuff come out. At a certain point, they're going to get to the point where they have to reboot.
Well, so
But
the thing is, okay, obviously we didn't even really plan to talk about the MCU, but I think it's really interesting we do. So, because obviously, you think about the initial run, and obviously you get to like Endgame.
Yeah.
The last two films was Endgame, and then what was the other one? The Saga,
Infinity War.
Infinity War. That was
Infinity War. Yeah.
Both of them films, they for me, those films were amazing films. They like because it was very hard to end such an iconic run well, and I think they smashed it at the park. I really do. I think both of those films are so well written, and considering there's a lot of characters in there, and you're trying to give them all a bit enough screen time to let them shine, you let every character have their moment, have their sort of moment where they're really fulfilling this whole stretch that they've had, and pulling all these narratives together. And I think they did so well. I think the problem you got then is when you've built it up so much that I think then it's hard to top that. It's hard to do better than those. I don't know how you do it. That I think it's almost like they've reached their peak, and then they want to almost start again. But it's like, yeah, but guys, we had this before. Like, and not only do they want to start again, but they want to do it different to how they did before. But like, we liked what we had before, so it's really hard from a creative point of view for them to be like, okay, let's tell a new story that reaches the same heights of what we had before and encapsulates the great sort of tropes and moments that you had previously. We want that again, but this time we're going to do a multiverse saga more, and we're going to change a few things around.
And they needed to build up new heroes. I think part of the problem was trying to build up too many of the C and D list heroes post Endgame. Some of those I think needed to be bring in before your next wave of heroes, which they did. They had Falcon. They had, they do have some of them, but with so many of the A-list characters going away, you needed to build up the head. Or conversely, they needed to start with the X-Men, because like I loved Shang-Chi, but Shang-Chi is like Ant-Man. Well, he's below Ant-Man in the comics, as far as like popularity.
Yeah.
You can't bring, just like Ant-Man and the Guardian, they weren't the first movies. It was Captain America, it was Iron Man, it was Thor, it was Hulk. Those were the first movies, the big characters. And I felt like they needed to bring in new heavy characters. And unfortunately, they were in this period where they didn't have full legal rights to the X-Men yet. They knew they were getting them, but they didn't have them. But I really feel like if they had gone and started with X-Men and then introduce some of these other ones in with them, that could have given them that energy. But unfortunately, they were in such a rush to get stuff out. But what brought all this up was the comments that Anthony Mackie recently made. Some people hear what he said, and I fully understand why they get offended. They have a lot of American pride, and they say Captain America isn't necessarily be thought of as American.
Yeah.
But
our good friend Danny was very offended. Danny.
Oh yeah, she was, and she has a unique situation. She was married to someone in the military during 9/11. She has a lot drawn to it, and she was very, very offended. And I don't want to belittle that. But when I looked at it, when I watched it, before I heard anybody else's reactions, I'm watching it and I'm looking at the context. He's there at a premiere in Italy. So he's talking to a foreign audience and he's trying to tell them, why should you care about a character called Captain America? Why, because it's no secret that in, a lot of European countries, Americans, we're the dumb tourists that keep clogging up the streets and, trying to demand you speak English in the gift shops. And, we're not always seen in the best light, but he's sitting there, you see him kind of take a moment, and then he says, he's trying to say something very profound, and I'm thinking, what is he thinking in his head versus what is coming out of his mouth? Because let's be clear, I think Captain America means a lot of things, and not necessarily American. Now, I think he's trying to say, like, and then he proceeds to list off what is, in media commonly put as like American values.
Yeah.
And so he basically tells them it's not necessarily just for Americans. This is for the world. This is for, but he's not articulating it well at all. But he's he's public speaking. He's in front of a crowd, and he's been hit this question, and he's trying to think of an answer on the fly. So he says that, and then he proceeds to describe what many people would say is like the apple pie American values. And so I feel like he's trying to say, he's a superhero for the world, not just for America. And when he later came out, because a lot of people were upset by his response, when he finally did respond on Instagram, he said, "Let me be clear." And he came out, I took what he stated, and me and Danny agree that it was condescending, but I took it as him being offended that people jumped to the conclusion that he hates America, that was hate speech against America. Like, he's like, let me be clear. I love my country. I love men and women who serve. I have nothing but, and so I think that we put these actors on too high of a pedestal. That like, they're supposed to speak and say everything perfectly all the time. But from his previous stuff, I don't take him as somebody who is, anti-American or anti, and it's funny because what's his name that plays Steve Rogers? All of a sudden I can't think of his name. Chris Evans. He came out previously and he said, I don't think he said something like, I don't think he should be called Captain America. I think he should be called Captain Good. And he was saying that to an American reporter, So it just, I feel like these.
Oh, so do you think, Nick, it's like double standards a little bit, that everyone's having a pop at him for his interview in Italy, but actually,
and I think also some of it, Chris Evans said it when they were, on the high. Marvel was on the high. So people weren't looking for a reason, but with all the research, with everything happening, everybody's looking at a laser scope. Like when Chris Evans said that, like it almost caught no traction. People didn't get upset because they didn't even really notice it.
Yeah.
But now, and it's only coming up now, people are reposting it because of what Anthony Mackie said. They're digging that up and saying, hey, Chris Evans said this. So but I do feel like people are ready to be angry at this movie. And so even if it comes out and it's good, I don't see it as going to be a win, especially with the cost of all the reshoots, that this is going to be any kind of win for the MCU. And it's sad because I liked his character. I wanted to see his character continue. But if it's constantly in this controversy, it's going to make his character one that they're not going to want to touch. It's just like, Brie Larson, they made her such a pivotal point, but there's a reason why we're probably not going to be seeing her in a bunch of MCU products. And that's because she's angered the fans so much that like people don't see past her character. And Anthony Mackie, it was so bad with names today. Plays Hawkeye.
Oh yes, sorry, I know what you mean. Well, yes, I know exactly.
But I just remember him and Anthony Mackie in an interview with Brie Larson before Endgame, and she started giving a speech, and the two of them just started rolling their eyes. It's like, well, this is what I got to know about these guys, But but I look at this like, what if they had rolled Harrison Ford out there? He, what does Harrison Ford do before ever an interview? He has a joint and gets high. and goes out there and goes, was I in that? Yeah, whatever. And everybody loves him, So it's just funny that, and then it was some other interviewer like started to talk to him, like the other thing about whether, Red Hulk being red, was in reference to Trump. That's, and he says, no, that's who the character is. Now, if we'd made him yellow, that would have been a problem. And everybody goes like, what does that mean? But he's saying, this interviewer is basically not knowing the comics, not knowing who Red Hulk is, and they're just trying to put some sort of political agenda in there. And he's like, that's what the character is. Like, if we made him some other random color, but he says yellow. Like, I don't like, and everyone's like, why yellow? Why? Everybody's focused on.
Just make him rainbow, and that will wind everybody up.
Yeah. But so, it's just one of those things rainbow where, some people are super defensive. Some people are wanting him fired. He said some things, and we can't read hearts or minds and know exactly what he meant, but at some point, it's really about what the show brings us, and I'm interested to see what this movie is. I'm interested to see Red Hulk.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things.
I think some people will go to watch it, or maybe watch it illegally if they can. And it'll be more of a hate watch. They're going to be there looking. It's going to be a hate watch. I know it's going to be, and they're going there to look for what is bad, so they can go, see, I told you so. It's this. I knew this would happen. I knew it would be this type of movie. It is this type of movie. I've been vindicated 110%. This movie is trash.
But they won't go see it 2-3 times, and that's what's going to prevent it, because they've got a budget that requires this to be $1 billion movie. And that's the other thing, is we got to stop making every movie with a budget that requires it to be $1 billion movie, because, you need an end game. You need something really big. But, when Ant-Man 3 came out and it needed to, broach $1 billion, it's like, Ant-Man has never been a $1 billion franchise. He's part of the MCU, and people, he got more than he probably would have before, because people want to see how he fits into the MCU.
Yeah.
But, and I love Paul Rudd. I love the character of Ant-Man, the dad vibes that he gives and stuff like that. But I also know that, it's Ant-Man, a bug guy. Like, why do I care about that? There's people that just aren't instantly drawn in by the poster for the normies, and it's one of those things that, like, you need to scale down the budget.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree. Absolutely. They've made a rod for their own back, haven't they, a little bit in a way, and it's like, we'll see. I think for me the reshoots are the problem, because if you're having to reshoot that, because obviously you're then going to focus groups and saying, watch this film and let us know what you think. And the focus groups are going, no, this film is not very good. And you're having to, this part's not good, this part's not good, the end is not good. And you're having to redo it over and over again. It's like, hang on a minute, what is going on? Why can't we get this film right? So we will see. For a lot of fans, it will be a hate watch because of what he said.
Yeah.
Anthony Mackie, I'm sure if Anthony Mackie had a time machine, he would not say what he said. I think, because obviously he can't,
I know a lot of people are waiting for an apology, but the problem is that when it's human instinct, when you have a lot of people come at you and say what you said is wrong, it is human instinct to stick your heels in and like, that's not what I meant. Stick your heels in and make it worse. That's it's hard, and everybody holds these actors to like some higher. Well, they're getting paid this much money. They should just be quiet, apologize, toe the line. Unfortunately, they're a lot of times even more spoiled. They live inside a bubble. They live inside of yes men around them, and they don't often react well to being told to apologize, and
No, no.
especially if they don't feel that they said anything wrong. But I think you're right. I
Yeah,
think if he had the ability to erase it from existence, he would.
I think he would.
And never
I
had
think
to
he
deal with
would.
it.
So you feel his comments may be a little bit misconstrued. It's probably been a bit naive, but there
So
was a
I think what he said word for word, yes, he said something that was wrong, but I don't think what he was thinking in his head is what came out of his mouth. You know, every married guy has been guilty of that. They their wife asks them a question on the spot, and they go, and they say, just tell me what you think, and you say something, and they go, what? And they get mad, and you go, that's not what I meant. It's just.
I think I'm quite. I think I'm quite good with my wife. I mean, I don't know about you, mate, but I think I'm quite good with my wife. I think
But we all have those moments when we.
Yeah, no, I'm joking. I'm joking.
We give an opinion.
She would. She'd tell me off. Actually, she'd be like, "Aaron, you said this. You said that."
But because he's there, like if he had been there with a crowd of Americans, and they suddenly went, I think he would have caught himself. He would have been. Now, what I mean is, but because he's there with a crowd that didn't react.
That's right.
He just thinks he's spitting out gold, and he keeps going. Because they didn't react. But if he'd been there with a crowd with react, he probably wouldn't. Now, this is what I mean. But he gets that reaction when he's probably on the plane the next day flying home, and all of a sudden his like Instagram or whatever is blowing up with
you
messages tagging him.
You traitor! You are the worst guy. You are a traitor. It's just like, whoa, dude, I didn't mean that. It's a shame, man. Because like I said, I agree with you. I like Mackie. I like Anthony Mackie. I like him as a Falcon. I like him in the MCU. I like him in other films. I think he's a really good actor. I do. I think he's a really good actor, and I think he has that likability as well. As an actor, I think he has that likability. He doesn't seem like the sort of guy that you'd meet in real life and be a Bond villain or something like that. I think he has that likability about him, and he's got charisma. He's got a lot of charisma.
He's got charisma.
He's got a lot of charisma. In that respect, when you look at him, his persona on screen and his charisma, I think as somebody that would carry the mantle of Captain America, I think he as an actor has the ability to do it. The issue will be whether the writing is good enough. That's the issue, whether the writing is going to be good enough. That's going to be the main issue. But in terms of him as an actor, he has the sort of the persona and the like I say, like that strongness and that manliness and that. Like he's got, what I like about him is he's the sort of guy that can convey strength, as in, military, warrior, fighting, hand-to-hand combat, fighting for your country. But also, you can also see a softer side to him as well. So I think, and I think for me, I like warriors to have both. I like a warrior to be strong and to be like, if he needs to drop an FU, he'll drop an FU if he needs to. But but also I want to see that he's got a heart and he's got and that he's got empathy and that he cares. I think
seeing him in the MCU, seeing him with Bucky, like it really shows that likability, that charisma, that playfulness that he has as an actor.
Lovely. Right, we've spent 40 minutes
I know.
talking about that. And
let's talk some Sonic 3.
But you know what? We'll spend we're gonna, most of the episodes we've ended up talking about so many other stuff, but I've loved it. It's been absolutely brilliant. And I think that's what I love about these sort of conversations, is that I love we could go anywhere with them. And it's been absolutely phenomenal. Such a great episode. And apart from my technical issues with this camera, but it's been a lot of fun as an episode, and I love it. Hi, Granny Joe as well. She's laughing here. So it's hilarious. So let's talk Sonic 3 for the last 20 minutes or so.
Okay.
Okay. So Sonic 3, went to see it once so far, but I'm quite busy, so it's hard for me to go like multiple times to see like sort of the same film in multiple times. But if I was like, you know, like free to do that, I would watch it multiple times. As soon as it comes out on streaming, to be fair, before streaming, my daughter loved it that much that she's going to make me and my wife buy it off Sky TV. So as soon as it comes on, we can purchase the film. We're going to buy it immediately, because it was a really good film. And what I loved about it, there was a moment where we went to the family house, one of our family houses, and my daughter was there with her cousins, her older cousins, and they were playing Sonic. And we just headed to the cinema to watch the film a few days before, and they were playing Sonic, and they were like, all they were talking about was Sonic, and everything was Sonic. And I thought, you know what, that's what a film needs to do. The film has done exactly what it needed to do. It's created a new generation of fans that weren't 100% exposed to Sonic, or maybe a little bit exposed to Sonic, but then they are now fully brought into that franchise. And so that film has done exactly what it needed to do. It's the best film out of the three for me. I did it, although I will say I did really enjoy Sonic 2. I thought Sonic 2 was a really good film. But I think Sonic 3 is probably the best film out of the three. I like what they do with Jim Carrey. I think Jim Carrey is a absolutely stunningly talented actor. His comedic timing is unbelievable, and I don't think anyone could play the roles that he did in that film. I don't think anyone could do better than Jim Carrey, if I'm being honest. I think he's an absolute phenom. And so, yeah, I've got a lot of praise for that film. You tell me, because you went to see it a lot of times, haven't you, as well? Tell me what you think.
So I've seen it 3 times. I went again this week to see it. Plus, I've seen it twice on streaming. So it is out on Amazon Prime to purchase right now.
Is it?
In the US? I don't know if it's there. Yeah.
So I don't think it's in the UK. So that's the thing. You guys always get it before we do. Terrible.
Yeah. Except that you guys got the premiere of Sonic 3 like 10 days early for one day. And then after that one day, it stopped showing in the UK until like a week after the US. I don't know. I don't get that. But they had like weird. All the actors and stuff fly out to the UK for the premiere, and they did the premiere there.
I know. Obviously, part of that was because a big part of the film was set in London, wasn't it? So
right, and they got funding from the UK film division, some grant or whatever to film that there. So, they also shot some of it in Canada. They've done that with all these movies because that gets them Canadian money. It's funny how they do these films. They go certain places where they want to beef up the film industry there, so they give out, here's a couple million to do it in our country, and here's and it helps make up their budget. But I was a kind of the opinion. Now I think as a movie, not as a Sonic movie, but as a movie, I think Sonic 1 is the best of the movies.
Do you really?
As a general audience movie, not as a Sonic fan.
Yeah.
Because when you come into that, I think it tells a much more complete story. It's less game centric. It's much more the kind of story that's more generic. But I think in that way, it does have a lot of heart. It's about Sonic and family, and this I feel like is the best game fan movie. There's so much references. There's so many little things like I was pointing out online the other day, like when Maria draws the little face on the glass.
Yeah.
That is the original concept art for Sonic.
That's amazing.
That is one of the prototypes. He was going to be a rabbit with a bow tie. And so like the fact that they put that in there.
Clever.
Little details like that. They didn't, did you play Sonic Adventure 2 at all?
No, I don't think I did.
So that's what this game is based off story-wise. In the end, like all those robots that chase them.
Yeah.
In the original show, it starts off, Shadow commits crimes. The government is colorblind and thinks it's Sonic. And so they send those robots out to arrest Sonic. And so like the game starts with Sonic running from the law, which this got there by the middle point. But this line he says in the beginning, he's been arrested, he's in a helicopter, and he jumps out and he says the exact same line he says in this movie right before he jumps out of the helicopter.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
Yeah. So they took that line out of the movie, but it's a different context. He was there by choice. He's not being arrested.
Yeah.
But originally, what the end boss was this giant salamander dragon that was Shadow's original prototype of the ultimate life form weapon. And they fight him in space. When Shadow's watching the black and white B movie that looks like a Godzilla ripoff, it's that character from the game.
Oh wow!
So that was the original final boss of the game. Is the monster that's going? And he's like, "Is that how people see me?" And that's supposed to be the Project Shadow prototype.
That's amazing.
So you know, the little details like that. In the game, there's a song called "I Am the Eggman." When Stone calls Robotnik, that's his ringtone. Is the song from the game that's his theme song. So, you know, it's just stuff like that that just really puts in those Easter eggs for the fans. But also, there were some things, I think one of the things that they did so well is they really built up Shadow and Maria's relationship. It gave it more heart, more impact.
Right, let me jump on that quickly. Grace Randolph on her streaming platform, you know, she's very famous, film critic in the US. Very you know where I'm going to go, don't you, with this? She's very, very tight with Warner Brothers. Some people call her a grifter, but anyway,
she thought Mario Brother movie was the worst movie she'd ever seen. But she thought Borderlands was amazing.
The Mario Brothers film, and I'm more of a Sega guy. When I was younger, growing up in the UK, at my age, it was you're either Sega or Nintendo, you're either Mega Drive or Super Nintendo, you're either Sonic or Mario. I was always Mega Drive. I was always a Sonic guy, always have been.
Yeah.
But the Super Mario film is a very good film. It's not even like you can't debate and say, oh, it's not a good film. It's a good film. It's objectively a good film. And I'm not even biggest Mario fan, but it is a very good film.
Seen some Sonic fans try to dog on it. Oh, it was cookie cutter. You know, Sonic films are so much better. Why did it make so much more money? And it's taken 3 movies for them to get there, but the Mario Brothers movie is unapologetically the game on the big screen. Whole movie could be cutscenes from the game. It's unapologetic. Every reference of the game displayed as their world. Whereas in the Sonic, you know, they're trying to do it as much realistic our world and then try to make game logic work in our world. And so they're walking a tightrope. They're really, we can't do that. That would be too ridiculous or silly. Whereas in Mario, they just went out, and I think that's where we're heading. I think video game movies are doing so well now, just like superhero movies. You know, at first, you know, Wolverine couldn't. You know, the first X-Men movies. You know, they were all in black leather.
Yeah.
And now you know Wolverine comes out in a trailer in his classic yellow suit, and everyone blows up loving it.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we are with video game movies, and I think that's what Mario Brothers does, is it shows you the game on the screen. And
we loved it.
And so you got to give it credit for that. But so what did she say about Sonic? Because this is going to make me laugh.
So obviously she was talking about Sonic, Grace Randolph. She was talking about Sonic, and she didn't like Maria's relationship with Shadow. She felt that
I saw that.
She felt that Shadow was coded as an adult man. Obviously, Keanu Reeves voices Shadow, and he did very well in the role, and that he's coded as an adult man, and that it was inappropriate for an adult man, even though it's in the form of an anthropomorphic hedgehog, um, she that talks. She felt that he was spending too much time with Maria, who's a little girl. You know how old is Maria, whatever her age is. That
Yeah.
it was
Was he an
inappropriate.
adult though 50 years ago? You know,
I
it's
mean, I mean, first of all, what surprised me was like I watching that film, I didn't even clock that. I never thought, oh, hang on, their relationship's inappropriate. It's, you know,
yeah.
there's a sort of safeguarding boundary there. Like, that's not the vibe I got at all. I didn't even think that. So it came out afterwards about her saying that. I think Danny mentioned it as well on her stream.
Yeah. Well,
On
I hear that and I go like, man, she is really going to have a problem if they ever do Sonic 06. So I don't know if you know in that.
No.
So in Sonic 06, this is one that got panned by the critics. It was very janky. It was trying to come out for an anniversary year, and it was also trying to come out on next gen on the Xbox 360 and stuff like that. And it was rushed out for the launch of the PS3 and the anniversary year. And it was full of glitches and bugs and all different stuff. But the main storyline involved a young human princess girl and Sonic saving her and them having a budding friendship. And in, a little bit of spoilers, in the game, Sonic is murdered. Sonic dies. And she brings him back with a kiss.
Oh, no.
So she's a human girl that has had this, but she's had this ancient god deity locked inside of her. And they kill Sonic because if she cries, she'll let the devil out. But then she resurrects Sonic so that he can purify the devil, basically, and make him good. And so
is there a few Christian motifs here? Are we going into the Bible and going into sort of?
Well, I mean, I'm using terms like that, but like he's, they have, this god of light that exists, but it has a second half of it that is a god of destruction and fire, and that's where Silver the Hedgehog comes. He comes from a future where the whole world is covered in lava, and he's fighting never-ending this fire monster, and so he goes back in time to prevent it.
Oh wow! Okay,
he's very much like Trunks. He's basically a carbon copy of Trunks. Is Silver the Hedgehog from Dragon Ball? But
okay.
it's.
I never got into Dragon Ball, so that reference right over. Right. So, do we think that Grace is overthinking it? Essentially,
yes. Yes. I think she's way overthinking it. But the thing is Grace goes into stuff, and she tries to think of what would be the profound or unique take to have, and she gives it, and like so often than not, she just gets a ton of backlash. But I think that backlash is also part of what makes her big. So I think she does this stuff on purpose. I think she looks like, what would be the take that nobody else is going to have that I can have that's going to get me clicks? Oh, they had an inappropriate furry relationship. Let's anger the Sonic fandom, and
because the idea of it, and correct me, Nick, if you think I'm got this wrong and it's not right. But my idea of that, thinking about it, would be it's almost like the Beauty and the Beast, in the sense of Maria's the innocent one, and she's the beauty, and Shadow's the beast. Now you could, if you want to spiritualize it, you could look at the Jungian archetypes. Mm-hmm. So you could look at it even on the level of the sort of Shadow being the Jungian Shadow, and Maria being the sort of childlike innocence that is almost like a different side of the same person, where they're battling that sort of okay, she's the true self, or the inner child, the true self, and he's the shadow aspect of it, and that they need to come together to kind of to resolve who the authentic self is, the authentic person is. Both of those different aspects of that person need to come together. That's a very metaphorical Jungian way of looking at it. But certainly there is a Beauty and the Beast aspect of that. She is the innocent one that would melt his heart and actually bring him, and she essentially makes him human. Now, obviously, he's not
Right.
human; he's an anthropomorphic hedgehog.
Well,
But she
in a
humanizes
way,
him.
I would say that, he is feeling all alone. Here he's crash landed. All these scientists find him. Any sci-fi movie, Star Kid, anything where E.T. was E.T. inappropriate? Was E.T. some old alien, hanging out with Elliot? Was that inappropriate? So it's
So
the same
bad.
story. It's the same story,
I
and
know.
it's a
Is that more? Is
she
that more
really shouldn't watch Sonic X, because Sonic X is all about Sonic landing in some rich boy's pool, and he's all alone because his parents are off being rich, and Sonic becomes his first real friend.
So is this a reflection of the times that we live in? That it's like people struggle.
Well, I will give this in Grace's defense. Maybe she went online and searched Sonic the Hedgehog and got up some art, because there is definitely a side of the fan base that is really obsessed with Sonic's love life.
Yeah, but
And
isn't that Sonic's love life with Amy, who's also an anthropomorphic hedgehog?
oh no, it does not stop with Amy. No, the Sonic fandom is freaks. It's
Okay. The Sonic that I've seen has been Sonic and Amy, and then there's some huge Christian tropes with Sonic about Sonic getting saved and becoming a born again Christian, and Sonic gives his life to Christ.
There's all, like, there's Sonic and Shadow, Sonic and Tails, Sonic and Princess Peach. Like, you go on there, there's a reason why I have pulled back. Like, I'm a huge Sonic fan, and I was really big into Sonic right when the internet was thing. And I remember there was this website called the Web of Rings. It doesn't exist anymore. It was a fan site, and somebody from another fan site opted me to. He says, you should join this and you should create a page. And I created a page, and being 12 years old on 90s dial-up internet and suddenly getting Sonic porn sent to me, I was like, whoa,
bad. That's so bad.
So there is that side of the fandom. I wouldn't say that's the main fandom, but when you go to those corners of the internet, it's prevalent, and the fandom makes jokes about it. It's just like the My Little Ponies and stuff. The internet will do what the internet will do.
I think that there's some people that might need deliverance. They need to go be taken to a deliverance church, and there's some spiritual stuff that needs to be cast out and sent into outer darkness. Terrible.
So the guy who writes the Sonic comics, he has a weekly podcast where you can pay super chats to ask him questions.
Yeah.
He had to make a rule of no shipping questions.
Oh gosh.
Because they're like, it was all like, if Sonic and so went on a date, how would it go? He's like getting it for all these 12 years. He's like, I can't, you're gonna get me fired.
Terrible.
So
it's an anthropomorphic. These are anthropomorphic creatures.
Yeah.
It's a kid.
But no, the movie did it innocent, and they gave it so much heart. And it's funny going into that. Ones in the Sonic fandom were demanding something that was never in the games. So in the games, Maria gets directly shot by the soldiers. There isn't, in the movie we saw they shot the thing and it exploded, and they were trying to shoot Shadow. In the thing, they're already on the space station, and she's about to hit a button to send Shadow to the Earth to escape. And so the gunmen shoot her, but you don't actually see her get hit. You see them fire, and then you see her on the glass, remember Shadow, and then she's dead, but you don't see her, she didn't sit there and get riddled with bullets. And everyone was like, well, they can't do that in a movie. And I'm like, they didn't do it in the game. Like they always cut away, you know, and it's implied. And I think what they did in the movie is they actually made it more impactful because they showed it.
Yeah.
They showed the explosion. They showed what happened, but they also didn't have I can't say that word right now. Soldier. I keep wanting to say shoulder. It's soldier. Directly shoot her. In his crosshairs, and riddle her with bullets. Like, so I thought they did it very tasteful. I thought the relationship in the games, it's Amy that makes a plea to Shadow that makes him turn. A lot of people were like, why, they can't do this story if they don't have Amy in it. They did it very well, having it something Maria and then something Sonic says about the heart reminds him of the phrase she said, and that it worked out perfectly. I think they did it well. If I had a little bit of critique, in the game, Gerald Robotnik is very much more dark and serious. And so I felt I felt like it was a bit too much Jim Carrey because both characters felt very Jim Carrey. And whereas in the game, the grandfather is much more, he was a very good man. This happened to him. I mean, he was all about bettering the world, and this happened to him, and it drove him to a very place. Yeah. So, but, and then I would say, I think though the movie adaptation did really well. One of the other things that was really cool in the movie, but I wish it was done a little differently, was when they did the Live and Learn song. So when they're in space and they turn super, now that song was all throughout the movie. They, when Maria's playing the acoustic guitar, she's playing that song. Yeah. But that song is the climactic Supersonic Super Shadow in space battling the final boss song. Yeah. And it's the like this heavy rock song. The only thing I disliked is that they kept flipping between that and the Robotnik fight, which kept interrupting the music. I was like, so when you go to a Sonic fan convention, like they will sing that song while everybody's standing in line outside for it to open. Like that is a huge part of the fandom. They have the guy who originally sang it, Giovanni with Crush 40 and Jin Sonoe. They go on tour and have fan conventions where they sing Sonic music, and that is always the close out the night song. Oh, okay. So like that is like the big, from the Dreamcast era, that is the big song that like everybody loves, everybody likes, and it's iconic to the story. And so it was really cool that they finally got some game music really in there. Yeah. But just constantly having it broke up, like, oh, here's some Live and Learn, and then here's the Eggman battling, and then here we go back out to them, and then the music slowly starts playing back up. I would have liked if it had stayed on them just a little bit more, so we could have got that song a little more in its glory. Okay, but, I hear what you're saying. Some because I know we have to wrap up here. Soon, fine. Yes. Some little things that I love about that they did this. Closing comments. The after first the after credit the credit like animation. So that guy he talked about that. He did a wonderful YouTube video on it. Going into like he got brought in late, and he was just doing the animations with like the blocky models, and so he got to go in. That is the first time that there has ever been an official classic Sonic model. I mean, not classic, classic Shadow. Say that right. So Sega is bent on Shadow happened later in the timeline, so there's never a classic Shadow. We can never have classic Shadow in any of the games. So when he made it there, that was the first time, and that was a big deal. But he said that he was doing all that. There were certain things they told him to cut, different things. He said, but when he went in and they saw the two blocking Eggman dancing, he says it was a boardroom of suits, and they thought that they had just come up with the greatest thing ever. And then they said, can you put Agent Stone in the background rapping and doing the turntable? And he said, yeah. And so he came back to them. And he says it didn't matter what he did after that point. That's all they wanted. They thought that was brilliant. And he's like that. The other thing that was really cool, I don't know if you saw, they had a guy, he only had 10 days to do this. He made a game for the Genesis to promote the movie trailer.
No way.
So he made, and all it is like the posters with them saying like their catchphrases, and then it has a little thing where Sonic's running from Shadow on the motorcycle. There's no way for him to actually lose or to win. But if you put in the old Genesis cheat code, it would trigger a trailer announcement that the trailer was coming the next Monday. Yeah. So he had 10 days before. YouTubers, like big YouTuber streamers, got it like on Friday before the trailer came out.
Yeah,
and so cool. And so like, but you actually put it. It was a Genesis cartridge.
That's amazing.
And so like stuff like that, I think they just do such great marketing with the fans on this stuff. Now you trying to get young ones into it and stuff like that. I think one of the things that they did amazing this year, they had the Sonic X Shadow Generations.
Yeah,
that is the most that covers the entire Sonic timeline.
Yeah,
like, if you get that will get you caught all up. And then they did the animation, Shadow into Darkness. It's a 3-part series. There's actually a whole one that does it all into one YouTube video on Sega's channel. That it's just beautiful 2D animation giving you the backstory of Shadow in the games. Really good stuff there. If you're looking for more content to share with them. And then, of course, last thing we got to talk about, the end credit scene.
Of course,
scene, I should say.
Of course. So obviously Amy showing up, and then obviously the Metal Sonics.
Yes. And so you see there's one Metal Sonic that's the head Metal Sonic, and then you have all the copies. That's been done in a couple of games. So that was done in Sonic Heroes, which is head Metal Sonic is the main villain. That was also done both in the American Archie comics for Sonic, and in the UK Sonic the Comic. They had the Metallic Saga, where there was a clone army of Metal Sonic. So really interested to see that. Glad to see now Amy is technically the second character made. Her game, she was the third to appear, but her game was for the Sega CD, both her and Metal. That was delayed by a year after it was made, and Sonic 2 was released on the Genesis first. But in reality, the game was actually finished before Sonic 2.
Really? Wow.
So it was delayed so that they could with the Sega CD, but so technically she was made and approved before Tails.
Oh wow!
And so it's interesting to finally get her. I know why they did the Shadow story first, because when you're in this industry, there is no guarantee you're getting a next movie. And that is probably the biggest Sonic story arc popularity that they could have done, was the one that they just did. But I had felt like I would have much rather had Metal Sonic and Amy introduced first, and then have the Shadow arc. But we're going to get that now. Metal is he looks so cool in that. Looks so cool.
I know.
And I'm glad to have Amy in the cast. She brings a different energy. And
real.
And I mean, she wields that hammer like Thor does.
I know. It's going to be amazing, and it's going to be amazing to see her, like I say, bringing that female energy into the role as well. And obviously, there's a lot of them now, because you've still got Tails, we've still got Knuckles. So we don't fully 100% know what's happened to Shadow. I mean, obviously, we kind of maybe, but we don't fully know. Robotnik again is a question mark. Of is he alive or not? So there's a lot of characters now, so it's going to have to be balancing how do you give them enough screen time and balance all these different characters. It was obviously easy in Sonic 1 and 2, so now it's going to be a bit more complicated, isn't it, in terms of balance, and also Amy has to come across as strong, Metal Sonic has to come across as strong as well.
Right. Well, and like Amy is a character that is traditionally um, flops back and forth from being super powerful to also being the damsel, and a lot
Yeah,
of it has to do with her anger level.
yeah,
When she defaults a lot of times to damsel, but
yeah,
when she gets angry or when she sees Sonic in danger and
yeah,
she turns it on, she has a lot of power.
yeah,
And her obsession with Sonic can really give her a lot of power to accomplish things.
yeah,
So and then they've toned Amy down recently in the games. She was like just all about chasing down Sonic, asking him to marry her all the time. What was almost like toxically going after him.
yeah,
They've toned that down to more of like she loves and cares about him, but she's more keeps it more internal, and she's always there to support him.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
so I think it's a much better characterization now.
Mm,
But it'll be interesting to see how they play it out in the movies because this is a little bit less mature of a Sonic.
yeah,
So
yeah,
to see that, it would be interesting to see if Sonic is into her. You know,
yeah. I want Sonic to be into her. I do.
yeah,
Because
it
you can't always keep her having unrequited love and unrequited feelings. You
yeah.
gotta give her a payday eventually. You gotta let her actually have that moment. And I want them to kiss as well. Full on kiss. Sonic and
So
Amy.
it's yeah, the Sonic Sally fans are going to come for you.
I
It's that,
don't
I,
care.
but
Bring them on. This is
uh,
Christian Fandom Geek Productions on Red 5. You know where to find me. Bring it on.
yeah, it's. But I think now there was a leaked script before the movie came out, and the original ending, Robotnik was supposed to be teleported back in time with the whole space station.
Okay. Oh wow.
They left that out because they don't know if he's coming for the next movie. But if he's in the next movie,
Hmm.
there are screenshots of him in metal in like feudal Japan as him as emperor.
No
So
way.
and the original game that Amy and Metal Sonic came in, they found the time stones that allowed Sonic by running fast to leap into the future and past. And Eggman was using machines to go into the past and create a bad future. And so Sonic had to go to the past, destroy the machines so that you could then go to the good future.
Yeah.
And so I could see them doing a version of that in this movie if Jim Carrey comes back. Um,
Mm.
but so that's and they did release some concept art that they said was for movie 3, but it's stuff of that. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. That's a potential for the next movie, but um, I'm I'm glad now that we have Amy, you know Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy. Those are the main four trio.
Yeah.
They joked that they wanted to put Big in Sonic Movie 3, but couldn't figure out how. In the games, after the game he was in, they just would put him randomly in the background. And I think that's what they should do in these movies. They should just have a big, giant purple cat walking around in the background. No
No.
explanation.
No. Right.
Uh,
We're gonna wrap it up now.
yep,
Nick, as ever, we'll link up again as well, mate. We'll link up again. Great
yeah.
episode. Been a
Well,
lot of
I
fun
found
to
out
get.
you're a fan of Voyager, so we got to hook up for that.
Oh wow, yeah, totally. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do a
Yeah,
Voyager episode. Yeah. Oh, I love
yeah,
Voyager. I love Voyager. Like from Voyager is like still one of my favorite Star Trek shows of all time.
yep,
One
yep.
of my favorite science fiction shows of all time. Period. Huge Captain Janeway fan.
Yes, my
Uh,
favorite captain.
my favorite, yeah, my favorite captain. Yeah, they went places with that show that they just didn't have never gone before, and that's why I love. That's what very psychological, just really deep stuff, and yeah, I love that show. Absolutely all over it. Even now, still
Yep,
love Voyager.
yeah.
Yeah, man.
So
Right, so
we got to
we'll
do
go
that.
now, mate. We're gonna link up again. Thank you for being on this show. Great Red 5 episode. Thank you for being on Christian Fandom Geek, my friend, and we'll
Yep.
link up again very, very soon.
All right, sounds good.
Make
Cheers.
sure you behave yourself, and make sure you don't hate watch Captain America as well. Then
Oh yeah. No, I plan on
don't hate watch
seeing
it.
that. I have an interest in. So
And thank you for you guys on the internet, on YouTube, watching this episode as well. Don't forget to smash the like button, share with friends and family. You know what to do, and be kind to each other. because there needs to be more kindness in the world.
Yes, most definitely.